Welcome to Nigeria Watch and Know Your Rights. My name is Vincent. The purpose of this video is to educate Nigerians about their legal rights and if your legal right is being violated, how you can seek redress of that particular rights that are being violated. So in today's topic, we'll be looking at brutality in Nigeria. Under this topic, we'll be looking at what is brutality. That is the definition of brutality. What is brutality? The definition of brutality under the Nigerian law. We'll be looking at the likely offenders and the likely victims of brutality in Nigeria. Also, we'll be looking at the various forms of brutality in Nigeria. We're looking at various forms of brutality. And after that, we'll be looking at the right that has been violated. We'll be looking at the various laws that protect the rights of people, of citizens against brutality, and the rights that have been violated based on this particular law. And also, we'll be looking at seeking redress for brutality to those that are victims of brutality, or if you're a victim of brutality, what are the mechanisms that are available to those people according to the Nigerian law that they can seek redress for their violated rights. So we're looking at the definition of brutality. What is brutality? Under the Nigerian law, brutality is the use of is excessive use of force. Is excessive use of force, violence, or harsh treatment by those in authority or law enforcement officer that leads to the physical harm, injury, or death of a person. Now let's take this definition all over again. What is brutality? Or the meaning of brutality under the Nigerian law? Brutality is the use of excessive force, violence, or harsh treatment. Now, the force must be excessive. So it could be the use of excessive force, or it could be the use of violence, or it is what the use of harsh treatment. Harsh treatment like subjecting people into a harsh condition, like torturing somebody or beating somebody. Harsh condition such as putting somebody in a poor sanitary environment, putting somebody in a place that is not there is no ventilation like what the environmental law officers normally do to those people that didn't use the overhead bridge. The number of people they put inside their van, you can see the number of people inside the van, and even the space for air, good ventilation to go into that van, you can see it is not actually okay. So the use of excessive force. It must be force that is excessive. Use of excessive force, and the use of excessive force or violence, and the use of inhuman or harsh treatment. Now that is being what applied by what those in authority or the law enforcement officer that result in the death of a person, physical harm of a person, or physical injury of a person. Now, that means the use of the excessive force or the application of the harsh treatment or the use of what violence must lead to or must result in the physical injury of a person, the physical harm of a person, or death of a person before such could come under brutalization. Well, such could say one has committed that particular crime called brutalization. So if there is no excessive force, if there's no harsh treatment, if there's no violence, or if there is and but does not lead to the death of the person or physical harm of the person or does not lead to physical injury of the person, then that is not brutalization. Now, who are the likely offenders and victims of brutalization? From the definition, we can see those that are likely offenders and victims of brutalization. Well, first and foremost, we said brutalization is the use of excessive force or violence or harsh treatment by those in authority or the law enforcement officer. Now, it could be people in authority. In other words, anybody in authority are likely offenders of this particular crime. So brutality is actually on the increase in Nigeria in every aspect of Nigeria, but it cuts across every aspect of Nigeria. It could be found in the home, it could be found in the workplace. You can find it home, it could be found in the workplace. It could also be found in the school. It can be found in the school, in the workplace, in the home, in the school, and also among the law enforcement officer. That acts of brutality, that crime of brutality is on the increase among law enforcement officer, is on the increase of recent. A video that went viral on the social media about um, an army officer torturing somebody because the person wore camouflage. That particular video went viral on social media. So is also on the increase among a law enforcement officer. So those are likely um, offenders of this particular act of brutality. Those in authority or law enforcement officer. Those in authority could be the parents. The parents could be likely offenders of brutality or brutalization. That is, you can see a parent that beat his child because of a particular act, a particular wrong that was done by that particular child. After beating the child, some parents could go to the extent of stabbing the child. Some even go to the extent of using a sharp object to pierce the skin of the child, or pour pepper on the child, or subject the child into the sun. Or it could be between the madam and the slave, the madam and the house girl, the madam and the house boy, or the master and the servant. The master or the madam, they could carry out this act against the house help because of a particular wrong or a particular act that was done by the house help. Also, you can also see brutality. Those are likely offenders and the employers. You can see relationship between employers and employee. I want to tell you that no matter what an employee has done, an employer has no right to lay hands on that particular employee, even to physical brutalization, that is verbal brutalization, using words against the employee, cursing the employee, and then insulting the employee. Some even go to the extent insulting the parents of the employee, even insulting their family, and so on. As an employer, you have no right to verbally brutalize your staff. So we look at, you see, employers also are likely offenders of this brutality. Also, we look at the school, we look at the teachers and students. Of recent, no, some time ago, the Lagos State government banned corporal punishment in secondary and primary school. Why? Because of a particular teacher in beating a child. At the point of beating the child, the child uh, passes out. The child fainted and actually passes out because of that particular act of that teacher. Because of that, the Lagos State government banned corporal punishment in secondary and primary school. So, because of that particular act, so brutality, likely offender could be parents, likely offender could be employers, likely offender could be master and servant or madam and the house help, and likely offenders could be the government and law enforcement officer. They could also be likely offender and victims. From that definition, you can see that we said brutality is under the Nigerian law is the use of excessive force or the use of violence, the use of harsh treatment by someone in authority or law enforcement officer that leads to what the physical injury or that leads to the death of what a person, an individual. So that means any person could be a victim of brutalization. Any person could be a victim of that act of brutalization. So now let's talk about forms of brutalization. Now we have the physical assault. We have physical assault as a form of brutalization. It could occur in form of physical assault. It could come in form of excessive use of force, excessive force. It could also come in the form of cruel treatment, and also it could come in form of inhuman treatment. Now let's look at physical force. Physical assault could be in the form of beating, Someone could either um, decide to beat a junior, or it could be among friends. They could gang up together and beat a particular person. It could be in form of a beating, that's physical assault, or torture. Now, when someone is subject to torture unnecessarily, even by those in authority, either by parents, either by teachers, either by employer, or by the law enforcement officer, now that is brutalization. So now physical assault, then we have excessive force. When you use an excessive force, apply an excessive force in a particular situation in order to have a law, even if it's a lawful enforcement objective that wants to be achieved, as long as the force here is excessive. Now, there are some force that is permitted under the law, the extent of force that can be used by law enforcement officers that is permitted under the law, and each situation determines the extent of the force that is permitted under the law. So once one uses a force that is unnecessary or not necessary, those such is forms of that is brutality. So we also have the quote treatment. Now, quote treatment should come about dehumanizing somebody, degrading somebody, um, subjecting somebody to physical and mental torturing. Also, we have inhuman treatment, subjecting people to physical and mental torturing. Also, inhuman treatment could also putting people in a place that is not an environment that is not a sanitary environment. Also, putting people on a place that is not well conditioned, or denying people medical attention, that is inhuman treatment. Any treatment that is inhuman, that is not humane, that is also forms of torture. So we looked at the various forms of torture. Now let's look at the violated rights. What are rights that have been violated? Then later we look at the laws that protect concerning this right. Now, those that are victim of brutalization, what are the rights that have been violated? Now, the right that have been violated is the right to life, the right to life, right to freedom from torture, right to freedom of inhuman and degrading word treatment. Now, right to life, those are the rights that have been violated. The right to life, it's right that have been violated. Then we look at also the right to life that have been violated, the right to freedom of torture have been violated, and also the right of freedom of human and degrading, inhuman and degrading treatment. Now, what are the violated laws? Now, those that are offenders, what laws have they violated? In other words, what are the laws that protect against brutalization in Nigeria? What are the Nigerian laws that protect the rights of people against brutalization? Now, first and foremost, we look at the Nigerian Constitution. The Nigerian Constitution of 1999 as amended, section 33 and 34. 33 of the Constitution talks about Nigerians have rights to life. People have rights to life. That section says no person will be deprived of his right to life, except, in other words, there is an exception. No person will be deprived of his right to life generally. No Nigerians will be deprived of his rights to life, except such a person is being convicted for a criminal offense, and the sentence of that offense by the court is a death penalty or a death sentence. That is under the situation or condition someone could be deprived of his rights under the Nigerian law, according to section 33, subsection of that constitution. Right? Subsection 2 now to give other circumstances in which excessive use of force could be used, and it could not be said that such a person has been deprived of his right. That section says no person will be one person will have been no person will be said to be deprived of his right if under certain circumstances there is a use of force that leads to the death of the person, or physical harm of the person, or that results to physical injury of the person. But specifically, that section relates to the death of the person. That under certain conditions that a force is used against a person that leads to the death of the person will not be said to have been deprived of the right to life, the right to live. Now, what are these conditions? One, the first condition is when the force is used to prevent a violent attack or to prevent violence on person. Now, if someone just walk into a particular place and starts shooting sporadically at people in that place, killing people, injuring some, um, and so on, and the use of force was used in that process, using excessive force to stop the shooter or the offender, and that leads to the death of the offender. That substitution will not be said the person has been deprived of his right, because if the excessive use of force leads to the death of such a person, so prevention of violence against a person, or defend of property, or once try to defend his or her property, and that leads to the death of a particular individual. So that excessive use of force will not, the person will not, that other person will not be said to have been deprived of his life. But the law regulates that the force that should be used, when we look at our criminal code talks about that the force that is being used to defend your property must be proportionate to the force of the person that you are trying to defend your property from. For instance, so someone walked into your house in the night, or a thief broke into your house in the night, and once he broke into your house in the night, the thief pick up a knife, probably your kitchen knife, and want to stab you with a knife, or want to fight with you with a knife in order to go get away with your things. And you, because you have access to gun, you pick up your gun and you decide to aim at the thief, when you warn the thief several times to leave your house and he refused to leave and still want to use a knife to attack you, and you still decide to, at the end of the day, you end up shooting the thief, and that leads to the death of that particular individual. Now, under the Nigerian law, you deprive somebody of his right to life. Now, under that section, why? Because the force you use and the force the person is used is that different under Nigerian law. Now, the thief makes use of a knife, you make use of a gun. So the person entered into your house, trying to get away with your thing, trying to injure you with a knife, and you used a gun while the person used a knife. The force of a gun is different from that of a knife. So now, that is section 33 talks about rights to life, and also give exception under which this section will not be applicable, will not be applied to. One, defense of when it talks about violence against person, also defense of property, also in a situation whereby the law enforcement officer or somebody would want to suppress an insurrection and the mutiny or riot, in order to suppress a riot, to avert this escalation of a riot. Under such situation, and if it leads to the death of the offender or the death of the person, that would not be said that the person has been deprived of his rights. And also, the other exception under that section 33 also gives some additional exception about under situation in which the person will not be said to have been deprived of his right. One section 34 protects against the right against torture and also against inhuman and cruel in an inhuman and degrading treatment. That's section 34 of the 1999 Constitution. But also that section also gives exception. Now, what are the exceptions? And also, it said that section 34 also said, under section 2 also said, people will not be subjected to forced labor. Now, that's section 2 of section 34. Now, forced labor it gives exception to what is called forced labor. Now, when someone is sentenced by the court to carry out a particular duty as a punishment to his offense that's being committed for a crime that has been committed, that will not be classified as forced labor. Or those in the armed forces or the police are men to carry out some acts that is part of their duty as a law enforcement officer, such should not be classified as forced labor, or in the situation of in the situation of flood or fire incidents, and people are forced to carry out some particular acts in order to prevent a situation that is threatening to people's life. That will not be classified as forced labor. So the Nigerian constitution that protects the rights of Nigerians. First is the laws in Nigeria that protect the rights of people. One is the 1999 Constitution of Nigeria, Section 33 and Section 34. Then now we have the National Human Rights Commission Act of 1995. That Act, Section 1, established the National Human Rights Commission. Section 2 of that Act also talks about the functions and the power of that commission. Section 6 of that act empowers the commission to investigate into cases of rights and fundamental human rights of Nigerians that have been violated. While Section 9 of that act protects the victim and also witness or witnesses concerning a particular violation of human rights. So we also have the torture and other inhuman and degrading prohibitory acts of 2017. That particular act protects against torture and other forms of inhuman and degrading treatment. It protects the rights of people, rights of Nigerians against torture, against inhuman and degrading treatment. And section 1 of the Act talks about torture, while section 2 talks about prohibition of other inhuman and other inhuman, cruel, and degrading treatments. Section 1 talks about prohibition against torture. Then we on that particular act, we also have section 9 that protects the rights of people and um, also protect the witnesses. Then we have section 6 of that act also that protects the rights of Nigerians. Also, we have the Nigerian Police Act 2020. Section 2 of the Act talks about the duty of the police officer to protect the rights of Nigerians and also to defend the fundamental rights of Nigeria. Then, why Section 4 of the Act talks about the power of the police officer to use force in certain situations when the need arises. But that section talks about limited force or proportional force. In other words, the force that should be applied by the police officer should be proportionate to the circumstances. Why Section 23 of that Act regulates the use of force by the police officer. It regulates the use of force by police officer. Why Section 34 talks about redress to victims, which which right has been violated by the police officer, that victims will be compensated or victims' apology could be rendered to victims. If damages occur, then damages will be paid to that particular victim, or a disciplinary action can be taken by against that law enforcement officer that is the offenders. Then we've talked about the law. Now we talked about Nigerian Constitution 1999 Constitution as amended, National Human Rights Commission Act of 1995. We've also talked about the torture and other inhuman and degrading prohibitory act of 2017. We also talked about the Nigerian Police Act of 2020. Now, we've talked about the various acts. Now, what are the mechanisms that are available to victims of brutalization in Nigeria, to victims of those that their rights have been violated? They want to seek redress of their rights either against their employer, against their boss, or against the law enforcement officer, or against the government, whosoever is the offender. Now, what are the mechanisms available for this set of people? Now, first of all, we have the National Human Rights Commission. Now, National Human Rights Commission can help people to fight for their rights and seek for justice. Now, what the steps that one needs to take in order to seek help through the National Human Rights Commission, you need to file a report about a particular incident, and you give a detailed and vividly um, detailed report, and it must be cleared and it must be detailed about the incidents that have happened. Then the National Human Rights Commission, the next step, they are going to investigate that particular complaint. And once they investigate it, they will make a recommendation to the particular authority that is involved. Also, they will now follow up that recommendation to ensure that that particular authority implements the recommendation. If not, they will enforce that recommendation against that particular authority. Then also we have the civil society organization, that is Amnesty International. We have the Amnesty International and the Nigerian Watch. Now, Amnesty is a civil society organization where you can decide to seek redress of your rights that are being violated through Civil Society of Nigeria, through Amnesty International, or through Nigerian Watch. Now, when you file a complaint concerning this your right that is being violated, they will help you to advocate that. When you report that incident, they will help you advocate it. Once they help to advocate it, they can also give you legal guidance and legal assistance. And also, finally, they can create public awareness of that particular incident. They can broadcast the incidents around the nooks and crannies of Nigeria about your particular situation. So, that is also another mechanism that the law provides, which one can also seek redress for their violated rights. If your right is being violated and you're a victim of brutalization, you can also seek redress of your right through this means. And also, you can decide to go to court by filing a suit in court, getting a legal practitioner. You hire a lawyer that will represent you, a legal representative, and also um, the legal representative will represent you in court, and the court will give judgment. So there are valuable remedies for victims of brutalization, include compensation, could also include an apology, could include damages, and could include other remedies that will be decided by the court, by the authority, depending on the cases that is being involved. Also, okay, with the remedy we've talked about, the mechanism to seek redress for your rights. We've talked about National Human Rights Commission. We talked about the civil society organization, and also we talked about the court, and also we can talk about the response units of that particular law enforcement officer, like the Police Act as a response, like the Police Act also talks about response in a way um, um, victims of brutalization can make complaint to the police or to the police authority. Now, the law enforcement authority can make complaint to the law enforcement authority, and the law enforcement authority will investigate into that situation. That's the next step. Once they investigate into that situation, the next thing they are going to do after investigating into that situation, they will now carry out action against a particular officer. Either they might take a disciplinary action against the officer if the officer is found guilty, and also they might offer you an apology, or they might compensate you, or damages could be um, given to that particular victims of the violation of the right. So these are the various mechanisms that is available under Nigerian law for those whose rights have been violated. So thank you for listening. But lastly, this these are the following tips you should know. Take note of the incidents, document the incidents, photograph the pictures, the video, and any material that will serve as an evidence of the case. Keep good record of that particular incident, the date, and the statement of witnesses. You keep those records intact, and also after keeping those records intact, also seek a medical help in case you are injured in a. Kindly remember to drop a comment below the video at the comment section, And also, don't forget to like the video, and also don't forget to subscribe to the video as well as to share the video. Thank you very much for listening to. We come your way with Nigerian Watch and Know Your Rights.